Okay, guys, if you are joining me here on this podcast, I have literally just spoke with Arthur for less than 1 minute. So let me give you a quick intro how this has happened. So for those who know Peter Sage, you see me do the live interview with Peter on the stage at the Strength to Succeed event. I messaged Peter and I basically said to him, Peter, could you recommend a couple of people to me who would be ideal for this podcast? I'm really looking for a high caliber of person, somebody who's world class. And Peter recommended Arthur. So Arthur, for anybody who doesn't know who you are, because again, I wasn't aware of your work, and Peter speaks highly of you. And just tell us who you are and what you do.
Wow. Well, that's I was born. Okay. So, I mean, basically, my work has been around the science of group dynamics. And it started basically from absolute failure and trying to fix myself. And it has led me to currently being ranked as the world's #4 authority in organizational culture. And being ranked also in the top 10 in leadership as well. And I've written 13 books now, 3 of them bestsellers.
Wow.
And so essentially, I mean, without going really into depth of to who I am and what I've done, I mean, really the best thing to do with anyone that you find on a podcast is Google them. I mean, because that's going to give you a lot more depth and determine whether they're actually worth listening to.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think the very fact that Peter's give you a recommendation, and Peter's obviously well known in the UK. I've followed Peter's work for a lot of years. So for me to get him on a podcast was great, because I always remember the first time listening to Peter on London Real podcast, and I just thought, wow, there's something really good and unique about that bloke that I love, and followed his work for a while. And yeah, we've started to build a good relationship now. So for Peter to speak so highly of you, I think that's testament within itself. So tell us, Arthur, a little bit about what was life like growing up for you.
Wow, life like growing up. Well, okay, first of all, my name is Arthur Carmazzi, so I am Italian-American, although, I had a Spanish mother, Italian father. And so I grew up as a stupid child, actually, in Carson City, Nevada. I was one of these kids where I would go to school, and the teachers basically would try to compare me to all the other students. And well, quite honestly, I just didn't compare. So they called up my parents and they'd say, Mr. and Mrs. Carmazzi, your son Arthur is special. Okay, code word for stupid.
Yeah.
And so they put me in a special kids class. And so here I am in this special kids class, and we're talking about discipline. I mean, literally the discipline level of the special kids class is just try your best and, be like this. And you're like, I mean, there was literally, there was so fluid, there was so much fluid, there was literally no discipline. But what happened was that I got this kind of sense of literally being okay with being stupid, because it was just kind of like going with the flow. It was easy until the school changed the rules. And then they said, oh, before you can go to high school, you have to have an algebra class. I'm thinking, oh my God, I mean, algebra, isn't that like, math for smart kids? I can't do that. But I had to go, so off I went. And here in my very first report card in my algebra class, what do you think I got?
I'm guessing it wasn't too good.
No, it was not. It was an F, fail. And the thing is that nobody was surprised. But something different happened. My teacher, Mr. Backus, and he sat down with me and just asked me a couple of questions. And then he put some simple algebra problems on the board and says, Arthur, can you solve this problem? And I go and do whatever they, exactly what they tell you. You're supposed to show your work, right? Because that's what they tell you in school. He says, no. Just tell me what you think the answer is without writing anything down. It's like, okay. And so I tell you it's this. And he says, well, that's right. And it's like, okay. And so he did another one, and he, he asked me the answer without writing anything down. I said this, and he said, yeah, that's right. He says, Arthur, would you like some extra credit? So like, well, yeah, I want to go to high school. So he says, all right, every Friday, we're going to have a competition and you get to volunteer in front of the entire class. And and basically do the exact same thing that you've been doing. And I think that you're going to be really good at it. And so Friday came along, I volunteered, and it turns out I'm actually quite good at this game. But the difference was that I was good at this game in front of an entire class of my peers. And that was a huge difference, because after about 3 weeks, some of these kids would come up to me and say, hey, Arthur, can you help me with my homework? And I'm like, oh my gosh, these people think I'm smart. Yeah. And I make something up. Oh, my mom, she's kind of like waiting for me, sorry. But then one day, Lynn Pachalski, this beautiful 8th grade girl, comes up and says, Arthur, can you help me with my homework? I'm like, yeah. Yeah. And I learned to be smart. And this is literally my beginning of my journey in discipline. Yeah, I love that. And I think it's for me, I think that sometimes teachers don't realize what they do when they put labels like that on children, because my dad had a label put on him when he was at school, and that ended up creating years and years of him thinking he wasn't good enough, his entire life off the back of a school teacher pulling him off the football pitch. And I think that label we give to ourselves is it's our identity. Our entire life's going to live out that way. What would you say on that? I completely agree. I mean, you'd think that, because I'm a little old, right? And you'd think that this was, teachers don't do that anymore. And yet, my son, who is now 12, had to deal with the same stuff from his 1st grade teacher. Yeah. And you'd think that by now people, the teachers would be a little bit more aware, but they're not. I mean, some are, but not all. And that you're so right. I mean, people are literally creating this foundation of misunderstanding of a person's potential from a very young age, simply because they don't fit into the system. Yeah. What I find unusual with this, Arthur, is most of the people I've had on the podcast have actually said they didn't do well at school. They didn't fit in. The thing about the rules and things like that. And I think so many kids are probably written off nowadays and labelled with split personality or ADHD and a number of these things, when actually... I actually have the ADHD thing, and so does my son. So they've got probably all this scope to do these amazing things, and they're probably being limited by these labels. Well, absolutely true. But see, the thing is that, do you know why people like us end up going into these different areas where we make an impact? It's because we're screwed up and we're trying to fix ourselves. Yeah. Probably a lot of truth in that. And so what ends up happening is that as you kind of try to fix yourself, you discover all of these different things, and you say, wow, hey, it worked for me. Let me share it with the world, because I'm sure there's other people like me out there too. And so then we end up creating these models, and we get well known, and people appreciate it. So, I mean, to a major degree, that element of being screwed up, as long as we take it in the positive way, is going to actually or has the potential to be something positive. Yeah, I love that. So you've told us where you were as a child, so tell us where you are now. What exactly are you doing now? Why has Peter Sage put you on the stage? Wow, well, let's see. First of all, right now I am speaking to you from my castle in Bali, which is super cool. It's carved into the volcanic stone mountain. Wow. I had the opportunity to build this simply because most of the work that I've done has actually helped organizations. Mostly we've worked with organizations, big companies around the world, in building and developing their organizational cultures. But let me explain a little bit about what that means. See, an organizational culture is essentially about the people. Okay, the company, what they want efficiency, they want people to be creative and innovative and basically help the company to make money. But if the people are not engaged, if they're not excited, if they're kind of checked out and they're just doing their job, well, they're not going to be as innovative and as proactive and as efficient as they could be.
Yeah.
So the directive communication psychology model that we've developed, or it's actually a series of models inside of a body of work, is basically the foundation of how people act and react to each other in groups. So just, okay, for example, in the area of discipline, you'll find that in some groups, okay, you are very disciplined. You are like, you're just in the flow, right? You know what to do. You know when to do it. You're in the process, and you're there, right? Well, in other groups, for some reason, even though you're the same person, you have the same habits, discipline just flies out the window.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the study of group dynamics. Directive communication psychology essentially has the answers literally of why and how that happens, and basically how you can take control of it.
Okay, tell us more about that. I'm interested. So if somebody's watching this now and maybe they are a director, they've got a team of staff, or maybe they're in a team that they're manager level, or they're in my environment, I try to create where people within our business are all entrepreneurial. So we try to create that entrepreneurial environment. So people are going to fit into those, into that somewhere. How does somebody improve that? How do they go from that consistency in other groups?
Okay, well, all right. So within directive communication, I saw there's multiple models, right? So one of the models is how you do things. Another model is why you do things, okay? So let's just look at the how you do things. Now, your brain has what is called the ambiguity relief process. It's a genetic process that essentially helps you to get clarity, all right? So now how I get clarity is going to be different than maybe how you get clarity, okay? Actually, it would be different, okay? Because the way that I get clarity essentially is what is called chaotic processing, which basically means that for me to get clarity, I need to actually take action. I need to start moving. I need to kind of like, ask people some questions. Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I don't get a lot of information. I don't have any structure. In fact, if I have structure, it's counterproductive.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you on the other hand, again, we've only spoken for a few minutes, but I'm going to guess, all right, that in your case, more structure is better.
Yeah. Let me think. That's a good question. I am a person of having structure. Yeah. I would probably be deemed, though, my team around me say that I'm a nightmare for ideas and shooting things off, and I'm everywhere 1,000 miles an hour. But yeah, I'd like to think that I am pretty structured.
Okay. All right. So now the idea is all of the brain processors can be creative. Okay. But at the end of the day, how you get clarity is going to be is also going to affect your process and the type of discipline that you have. Yeah. See, for example, for me, okay, if I were to try to do some kind of a structured time management thing, I would completely fail. Yeah. I mean, it would last maybe about 2 weeks, right? And I'm really excited about it for about 2 weeks, and then it's over. Okay. On the other hand, someone that might be, let's say, for example, what we call linear processing, see, they get clarity through structure. So if there isn't structure already, they'll kind of find the structure or create the structure. Yeah. Okay. And so that means that for them, having, here's some boundaries. And even if you're like getting ideas, you're getting all these ideas, but how do they connect? How do they relate very specifically? Well, with a chaotic process, it's like, oh, wow, there's this idea here, there's an idea here. And like, you just start moving on the idea without actually knowing the end result. You kind of have this end result kind of big fuzzy picture, but it doesn't get clear unless you start working on it or getting other people to work on little bits and pieces of it. Well, someone that is, say, for example, linear structure or linear process, which is more structure oriented, they would prefer to have the clarity first before actually taking some real action on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Go on. I'm loving this. Okay.
All right. So your discipline or your style of discipline essentially is going to be related to structure. And, for you, it's common sense. I mean, it's obvious, right? Because it's like literally looking through colored glasses. When you see things through, say, red colored glasses, you're going to be able to say, well, obviously it's like this, right? On the other hand, if I'm looking through green colored glasses, I look at the exact same thing that you're looking at. It's like, what are you talking about? Okay. Yeah. How can you possibly do it this way? And for me, I'm like immediately starting to go off on something. It's like, you're thinking, wait a minute. You haven't even looked at this. You haven't looked at this. Have you considered this? And it's like, well, no, but I'm sure I'll get to it as I get there.
Yeah.
And so these two particular things create some conflict. And yeah. Especially, let's say, for example, you're in a team, you want to be able to find out a person's ambiguity relief process. Or, well, we have a tool called the Colored Brain Communication Inventory. So it makes it a little bit easier to understand the science behind it. And so colored brain essentially helps to identify and measure the brain's ambiguity relief process. So green brain, okay, chaotic processing. Linear process would be red brain. And then there's also some other processors like intuitive processing and also relational processing, which basically relational processing is about getting all of the details. And see, well, for example, chaotic processing, nothing is connected, right? I mean, you're just moving and you're kind of putting things together as you move, while linear processing, intuitive processing, relational processing, everything is connected.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's all connected through data and information. And the more information that that this person would have, the easier it is to see these different options clearly. And so then they can go ahead and choose the option. Well, for you, for example, if it's more structured, it's like, okay, this goes here, this goes here, this goes here. It makes sense. This plus this makes sense, which basically makes you somewhat more, when you approach something, okay, it makes you a little bit more objective from it. And it's like, so you've got all these ideas, but if I've got all these ideas, I put them here, I put them here, I put them here. And so therefore it becomes a lot easier for you to manage them. Well, with somebody that has relational processing, okay, that where they go is not relevant. The more information they have, it just creates this kind of sense of how it all fits together, and they don't actively have to do anything. Yeah. It just appears because the information itself just creates that foundation. Well, you would have to actively find or create or build a structure, and green brain process, I would have to actively act on it, while they would simply just collect information and it becomes obvious.
Yeah. And can you be a mixture of these? Because I'm kind of reflecting now on where I fit in here, because I'd be interested to know if anyone who's watching this who knows me of which one of those boxes I fit into. Because I think people would probably say that, I mean, I am structured, so I have certain times I get open, I do that, and I have that discipline. I try to simplify everything as much as I possibly can, but I probably would be deemed erratic in, I don't need to have things in order in some ways. Like when in the business side of things, I kind of have an idea and it's just like, let's roll with it, let's just take action, and then I adjust off the back of the action. So can you have a mixture of these things? Because I kind of see where I fall into two areas.
So let me explain how this works. First of all, Kate, there's a genetic foundation. You cannot change the genetic foundation, and there's only one. Okay? But let me explain how it works. Let's say, for example, myself, as a chaotic processor, I'm not really very naturally talented at analyzing things. okay,
Yeah.
in a linear structured way. All right. Now, does it mean that I can't analyze things? No, it doesn't. But let's say, for example, if I am in a situation where I need to analyze something, all right? Now, this is called neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity basically allows me to come up with any type of new skill, even for that matter, attitudes that are going to affect my ability and my behavior. So as a green brain, my process is chaotic. Okay, that doesn't change. But if I need to become a person who is analyzing things, and maybe my job, my environment, whatever, I will learn that skill. But I will never analyze things in a way that a linear person analyzes things. My process for analyzing is going to be, okay, if this happens, maybe that happens, then maybe this happens, and then maybe that happens. Okay, so I can process of how I do it does not change.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense? So in your case, again, I mean, I could be wrong that you might or are structured, and maybe you're like me, you're green brain, and you have learned to be more disciplined and structured. Okay, that's also possible. You know, or maybe it's the other way around. Don't know. Okay, but the thing is that regardless of whatever process you have, that process is always going to be, it's going to be your hardware. It's like if you have an Apple phone, you're running a Motorola processor. If you have an Android, it's probably an Intel.
Yeah.
Okay. So the hardware doesn't change, but I can put apps on a Motorola phone that, I can put apps on an Android phone that actually even make it look like an iPhone, which would be stupid, but people have those.
Yeah.
and it'll act like it, but it'll be slower than an iPhone.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be as fast, but it can perform the same function. It just does it in a different way. So it's the same thing. We have a foundation that is natural to us. And if we focus on our strengths rather than our weaknesses, then leverage on the people around us and their strengths, it becomes a lot easier. See, the biggest problem in this area, for example, when you're dealing with teams and you've got the different processes of how people interpret the world around them and how they get clarity, is that often it affects trust.
Yeah.
Okay, see, I mean, for example, if I'm chaotic processing, and let's say my boss is going to be, okay, let's say he's going to be very detailed, and he's going to be purple brain, or what we call relational processing, right? So he wants me to do all these things and come up with all these details. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why am I wasting my time doing all these details? So first of all, I don't feel good. So I now become disengaged. I don't feel that this person trusts me. I don't feel that that person is really respecting who I am and what I can do. And so therefore, just, okay, whatever, just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Right? And so therefore, I am now operating at a much lower percentage than my actual potential. So let's say, for example, my boss was paying me, let's say $5,000 a month. Yeah. All right. And when I started working and I started using my ideas and everything else, I had the value of $5,000 a month. The moment that I start to feel like I am not appreciated, I am not trusted, they don't accept my way of doing things. So therefore, I start producing less or using less of my natural talents. They're still paying me $5,000 a month, but the ROI of what they're getting is maybe $3,000. Yeah. So, and of course the boss doesn't feel good because it's like, oh, you know, like these people are not really, and of course I don't feel good because I'm working in a job where I'm not really able to show how valuable I am. And as human beings, I mean, it is instinctual that we show value. Yeah.
No, I love that. I mean, the philosophy, what's your take on this? My philosophy, what I've found work in business is I show my team the vision, so where we're going and how they get there. I'm comfortable with them doing their own way. As long as we end up at that end result, then I tend to take a step back. So is that what you're sort of suggesting, or as a director, should you know exactly what type your team is and help push them that particular way?
Yeah. First of all, your strategy is ideal. Okay, except that if you want to take it to the next level, okay, yeah, because your team is still going to have to deal with each other.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes they're just going to go, oh, seriously.
Yeah. With each other, so a clash within each other of how they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because there still is going to have to be that interaction, even if it's virtual right now, and in this kind of situation, right? So you still have that foundation where people are going to need to understand each other. So see, for example, if people understand that I am green brain, and maybe they're highly detailed or highly structured or intuitive, which is more on a reflective process. Okay, what ends up happening is that if they understand where I'm coming from, it's like, instead of judging me, what we call brain racism, they're going to say, I understand, you're just green brain. Okay, and also, let's just take the element of that communication, right? So one of the factors that support groups to essentially be more cohesive is to have a common language of what we call predefined communication. Okay, if I basically tell you, well, quite honestly, Stephen, I don't really, feel good about the fact that you don't allow me to, be more in spontaneous in this, and I felt disrespected in this kind of way. Nobody does that.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. But what they would do is like, hey, Stephen, I'm green brain, dude. Remember that. Okay. I know you're red, but hey, let's make it work. Okay. Now we're having fun. We're communicating something without confrontation, and we're basically kind of getting people to see where we're coming from and acknowledging where they're coming from at the same time in a fun way, which basically gets people directed toward what's important, which is achieving the end result, rather than finding a reason to blame each other or, for something going wrong or some delay or whatever.
Yeah, so I'm thinking here now then, first of all, I thought, so is it better to have your team that all have the same approach? But then I guess there's negatives to that. It's probably best to have, because different ways of doing things will probably be better in certain roles. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And see, it's not only, remember, anybody can do, the colored brain is not a personality thing. Okay, it has absolutely nothing to do with why you do anything. Okay, so, and it's nothing to do with your introvert or extrovert, or if you are a risk taker or no risk taker. It's only one thing: how you get clarity. But that affects your action sequences or your action processes, how you take action.
Yeah.
Okay, and that also affects often how people basically judge you for the way that you do things, for how you do things, right? But the thing is that if I understand the different processes and we've got different things here, we're literally looking at the same thing from multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
And if we have multiple perspectives, well, that's going to give us a much fuller perspective on different positive ways to achieve a goal, or essentially in some cases, like somebody may say, hey, I think I should do it this way. And it's like, really? Okay, I'm going to go this way and you do that way. Let's give each other some feedback so that we can still, keep each other aware of what's going on, but maybe we'll, one of us or maybe both of us will achieve the results even faster.
Yeah, I love that. So, Arthur, tell us who have you been doing this work with? Because you're doing this work around the world. Am I right in saying that?
Absolutely. I mean, most of the work we do is with large organizations, Dell Computer, Emirates, Technip, Intel. We've got, I mean, the Malaysian government, the Kazakhstan government. So, I mean, we've done this with, you know, larger organizations in general.
Yeah. And what type of people are you sharing the stage with?
Last time I shared a stage was with Marshall Goldsmith. So he's also one of the, you know, larger, well-known thinkers. John Mattone, also very well-known guy, primarily in leadership. Chester Elton, number 3 in culture, I think, number 3 or number 2. Okay, so you know these guys are, and you know, I mean, but it's not just the sharing the stage as much as it is in the implementation. You know,
Yeah.
we have right now we have over 500 licensed directive communication psychology trainers, consultants in 19 different countries.
Wow.
And they're going out there and they're using DC psychology to essentially help organizations also. And we also have a new online program that where people can learn to become organizational culture consultants, and they get certified, and the certification is accredited by the American Institute of Business Psychology.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done for growing something of that sort of magnitude.
Oh, thank you very much.
So let me ask you a question on that while we're on it then. If there is business owners watching this, how do you scale to that level? How do you get to 19 different countries impacting people all around the world? What's the secret to that?
Being ambitious.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like it just started that way.
Yeah.
At one point, you reach critical mass. And for us, that happened about 3 years ago. So once you have a critical mass, see, what happens is that the moment that you have a methodology, I mean, of course, you have to have everything that goes with it, right? So you have to have, it's not only, for example, for us, it's not just certifying people in a methodology. We provide them the support, we provide them the marketing materials. I mean, our goal is literally to help them succeed, right? So if they succeed, then of course they perpetuate the brand. If they perpetuate the brand, then more people want to be part of the brand.
Yeah.
Okay? And so it's a, you know, it's an ongoing roller, you know, coaster thing, not coaster thing, whatever. But anyway, it's an ongoing thing that, you know, keeps building.
Yeah. What about, I'm guessing you're aware of John Maxwell's work then, because he's deemed as, in leadership as one of the greats, is he not?
Absolutely, absolutely. John's, I mean, John's kind of like the grandfather of leadership. The guy's amazing.
Yeah, well, one of my old mentors, he's mentored by John Maxwell. He works quite closely with John Maxwell. I've not had the pleasure of meeting him, but I'm very aware of his work, and I've learned a lot from his work as well, from watching videos and things like that.
Yeah, he's done very well on multiple levels of leveraging his brand as well.
No, I love that. So Arthur, let me ask you, who's been a big inspiration in your life? Who's someone that's had a real impact on your life?
Wow. I mean, my parents, of course, would certainly be the first. I would say definitely my wife has had a huge impact on my life as well, because I used to be kind of an asshole until I met her.
Yeah.
And then she kind of helped me to be a little, well, a lot better eventually. But professionally, I would probably say Ken Blanchard kind of got me started. Then after that, I was, I'd say that, you know, there've been a lot of people, including Marshall Goldsmith, who has also been instrumental.
No, I love that. What would you say, if people are watching this, what's the secret to life in general? Quite a deep question. What would you advise people?
The secret to life is don't take life too seriously.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. So I don't take life too serious as well. Sometimes people don't understand me when my humor in some ways, but yeah, I agree with that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like shit happens, man.
Yeah.
You know, you think, hey, you got it all figured out, and then something happens, and you can't fix it immediately. So you got to keep on going. You know, be flexible. I mean, that's really the key, is the element of flexibility. And to I think the expression is roll with the punches.
Yeah.
And that's that in itself is going to keep you not only sane, but it's actually going to present you with more opportunities, because in general, when you have the kind of mindset that you can't lose, well, you know, your brain always finds ways to essentially get yourself out of trouble. Yeah. Regardless of the trouble that you get into.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. So while we're on that, what mistake have you made? What big cock up have you made that you can laugh about now, but you maybe didn't at the time?
Oh, well, actually, I'm in this really cool mistake that, well, it wasn't really a mistake. It was just, so, you know, business has been doing really well. And so, you know, we have the resort, we have all these different things. So we basically took all of our money and we just put it in. We bought this big land next door. So we're going to be creating the ancient lost city of Lemuria. And on top of that, we expanded construction on the current resort and everything else. So huge, massive expense, right?
Yeah.
And everything was fine. And then COVID-19.
Yeah.
It's like, oops.
Yeah. I'm feeling it as well, so I feel your pain.
And so now, because all of the stuff, you know, that we actually got into some debt, which we haven't been in debt for quite a while, right? So we had, because this is quite a big expense, yeah. And we actually got into some debt, and so now we've got the whole COVID-19 thing going on, and but. You know, fortunately, again, I mean, like when you're in a situation that you have to come up with cool ideas, then then things basically work out. So fortunately, our online programs have been doing very well, and it's you know, everything's still going.
No, it's good. Well, I'm feeling the same thing because I do live events, and obviously they've been completely killed. So we've been adapting to get more stuff online, but I've been hit from another angle because, like yourself, I'm doing quite a big development at the moment, and that's been hit where we were meant to be released finance to complete it. It's a 25,000 square foot building, and I've had all finance pulled. I'm limited about how many people I can have on site, so we're at a burn rate of 21 grand a month. I need to pull my finger out and quickly.
Well, at least you have the opportunity to still maintain your people. Like half our workers, they left because wow. they weren't allowed to be here because of the restrictions and stuff. Yeah. So.
And I love how you can just laugh at that. And the thing is, I believe if you trust that the river bends, that things will work out. As long as you can stay in that solution-based mindset, as you've said, then...
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've been criticised for that sometimes, of people saying that I'm blasé, but I don't know. It's always worked out for me, so I don't want to change anything.
Well, you know, there's a genetic element to that. There's an enzyme called P300, and P300 essentially is it's an optimist drug.
Right.
So if you have a longer gene that creates a lot more P300, you're generally optimistic, and if you don't have as much, well, you're generally less optimistic.
Yeah, love that. Okay, 3 more questions. What's the vision? Where are you going? What are you doing?
Global domination.
Wow, I can't believe you said that.
No, what else is there, right? So, well, no, okay. I mean, right now, you know, we're in 19 countries, but you know, right now at the moment, all those 19 countries are between Asia and the Middle East. Okay. So we actually, just before this whole COVID-19 thing, we started expanding into the United States, which is kind of like halted for the moment. And we're looking at also expanding into Europe. And so, we're looking for different people who, businessmen who essentially want to partner with us and build the business element of DC psychology and all of the stuff that goes with it in Europe and in the US.
Yeah, I've got a WhatsApp group, and it's me and the other directors of my business, and I called it World Domination. And one of the directors said that. That's why I said I can't believe you just said that. And I'll send it over. And he said, we can't be called World Domination. That's like, I forget the word, a bit sort of brash, a bit out there.
Yeah, well, if you don't do it, somebody else will.
Yeah, that's my sort of take on it. Okay, 2 more questions. As you know, this podcast is called Discipline. I believe discipline is the foundation of all success. What's your take on discipline, and what areas are you disciplined in that's got you great success?
Well, again, I mean, as I was talking about, each brain process is going to have their own way of discipline. Okay. Yeah. And if you try to mix and match, eventually your discipline will fall apart and you won't be disciplined, and you go, oh, this discipline stuff doesn't work anyway. And then you give up, which kind of, is counterproductive. So by trying things that are not in line with how you actually interpret things and how your brain processes information, can be counterproductive. So fortunately for me, I am disciplined in the way that I have a good team, and I get my team to basically tell me what to do so that they can get what they need in order to essentially achieve what they need to achieve. Yeah. Okay. And and so there's no ego there, because at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is results. Yeah. And so I'm also very disciplined in spending time with my family. Because that's important to me. I mean, my kids are still young, and you want to be able to help them to have a very well-rounded education, not just what they teach you at school, which is important for the basics, but at the end of the day, the education has to be something related to creativity, to innovation, to understanding concepts far beyond what they would teach you in school, so that you can create your own ideas, so you can break stuff and rebuild it. Yeah.
No, I love that, because I have, it made me laugh, because I'm the same. My team tell me what to do. We also, we do 360 appraisals, where I've had it where week one apprentices are giving me feedback as well. I'm a big believer in that. If you're going to lead people, then it's got to go all the way around. If you're going to be part of a team, that you're all just a cog in the wheel, as I say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, last question, and this is a deep one to finish off with. So we're going to fast forward now, and we're at Arthur's funeral, and your family members are there, work colleagues are there, maybe it's people that you've trained, friends. What do you want to be remembered for?
Wow. I want to be remembered for saving the world. Okay. I mean, okay, here's the thing. Right now, most organizations, let's just take Peter, for example. Yeah. Okay. People that follow Peter have the personal desire to improve themselves. Yeah. Okay. But what about everybody else? See, all these people that are stuck in jobs and everything else, see, they don't even realize that there is something to become better at half the time, right? So they're in their jobs, they're doing their thing and everything else. And most of them do not follow the personal development road. Yeah. So this is where I see myself as saving the world, because I work with these organizations, and even though what I'm doing is helping the organizations to essentially be more efficient, more productive, create better cultures, I am taking their people on a personal development road through the organization so that they can personally succeed through the organization.
Yeah.
So I'm helping people to have better lives through their organization, and of course the organization's benefit at the same time. So that's kind of how I see myself, and would love to be remembered as the guy that helped the person that didn't know what they didn't know about their life and their potential to find that.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm actually going to ask you one more now. I said I want the last one. I heavily invest in my staff and my team to improve, because I understand that their results are only going to be in line with the level of thinking. And if I want a better team, better performance, then they need to improve as well. So I'm guessing that you also have that approach. Who's mentored you? Who do you still invest in yourself? And if so, who do you use as your guidance to lift you up?
Wow, that's, it's a wide variety of things. I mean, for me, it's still about skill development. It's about understanding stuff. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of different thought leaders in different areas. So, I mean, I listen to Peter's stuff, of course, because Peter's amazing. But, I also go in and I learn stuff related to science and new technology and, what's available. I learn a lot about internet marketing and, again, what's available, what's going on. I'm still developing skills. I'm trying to play the violin, not very successfully, but, it's going, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, I mean, investing myself in my kids' education also is a learning process for me at the same time, because I get to learn things and relearn things. And it's interesting how I remember trigonometry now, when for some reason when I was in high school I couldn't remember it. Yeah. It just made no sense, but for some reason now it makes sense.
Yeah.
When I'm trying, my son Dante, he's 12, and my younger son is 9, and both of them are authors, by the way. They have written books so far, and now they're also making an online program teaching kids how to write books.
No, that's amazing. My daughter just wrote a book. She's 10 years old. It's about to be released this month, or in the next month anyway.
Awesome. What's the name of her book? What's the title?
It's Your Secret Superpower.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's about controlling your thoughts. But it's funny you say that, because what I've found is the more I develop and the more I've grown, the more I learn from the kids. And you'd think it'd be the other way around. But yeah. I spot things now in the little one that I haven't in my other daughter, Sadie. I think just as I've grown, I'm at the moment, I'm watching her ego form of watch me, look at what I'm doing. You can see her. I'm just watching little things that I never spotted in my 10-year-old daughter.
There you go.
Yeah. Arthur, I've absolutely loved that. I'm going to ask you to finish on one thing. First of all, tell us, where can we find you? If people want to know where to find you, where can they find you?
Wow. Well, there's a lot of different places. It depends on what you want to find. But if you just want to find Arthur Carmazzi, you can go to carmazzi.net. That's CARMAZZI.net. If you want to find out about the different certifications that we have and you want to join our team as a consultant or trainer around the world, go to trainthetrainer.asia. Okay, and of course, to find out about directive communication psychology, go to directivecommunication.net. And if you want to find out more about Colored Brain, which was what we were talking about earlier, coloredbrain.com.
Coloredbrain.com. Love that. Give us something inspirational to finish off, because I know are you what, 7 hours ahead? 5?
Right now it is, 7 hours. Yes, that is correct.
7 hours ahead. So you'll be ready for bedtime soon, is it? Won't
Well,
be.
not that. I don't go to bed that early. But yeah.
Yeah. It's tea time-ish, yeah? Evening meal.
Yeah.
Okay, give us something inspirational to finish off with.
Something inspirational. Wow. Like the. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, everything we've been talking about has been kind of inspirational. So, I mean, the only thing that I would say right now, I guess, would be that, regardless of what your process is, regardless of, of how your brain interprets information, regardless of, the reasons why you do things, okay, you are essentially a composition that by yourself can create awesome stuff. But the moment that you put you combined with another group, okay, the group dynamics is going to affect you either in a positive way or a negative way.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see this immediately, okay? You'll know which groups are working for you, which groups are not, okay? And by understanding, okay, a little bit more about the group dynamics and the different people in the groups, okay, you will literally be able to affect your life, okay, drastically by creating the right groups for you to be in.
Love it. Arthur, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time and take care.
My pleasure. See you later.
Okay, that's the live cut there. So we can just cut this little bit at the end now. So we'll get this. It's obviously gone out live anyway there. So that's gone out to a group.
Oh, it's gone out live. Wow.
Yeah,
all right.
That went out live as well to a group of about 8,000. We'll put it across our other platforms once we've got this done as well. And then it's going to go on that podcast, which Peter's one of those on that podcast as well. So, we've got some great names and it'll go on the YouTube channel. I'll tag you in it once it's up and running in the next week or so.
Appreciate it. Hey, if I could also get people to subscribe to my YouTube channel through you, that would be, I'd be honored if you could do that as well.
Yeah, well, what I normally do is I normally put a link within our description of who we've interviewed and stuff like that. So we'll connect that in there as well for you.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your day. It was nice meeting you. I'm sure we'll catch up again soon at some point.